What is up, people? We are back. Miami Dolphins 2025 NFL predictions. I'm going to go through each position and give the player that I think has the best chance of being a Miami Dolphin. Very close, thank God. We are only a few more days away now. I've been waiting for this moment. What's up, troll? Sorry to keep you waiting. But yeah, we're gonna go through some predictions, and I want to talk because I'm gonna make a predictive mock next week, like my final predictive mock, and truly try to guess who I think the Dolphins will draft. And I want to talk through like some people that I'm kind of stuck on, especially at 13, because I kind of have a few different options to go through. And I wanted to go over that, so let me make sure this is good. Boom, boom, boom. I'm live. Okay, cool. I guess first we can go just through each position, and this is guys that I think the Dolphins will have a lot of interest in, and it will be like a wide range of like what round these guys could go in. Because if I think they're going to go early, then I'm going to go player early, but we'll see. Nice, troll. Yeah, I'm going to be live pretty much most of the weekend for this. The draft is, I think we talked, the draft is pretty much like Christmas to me. This is like my favorite time of the year. Very excited. Dolphins having a lot of picks really makes up for it. So first position we will talk about is quarterback, actually. Don't need to spend, I think, too much time on this position, but I do think there is a decent chance Miami ends up going quarterback, especially in like that middle area. You know, when the Dolphins have like 4 picks in rounds 4 to 5, I wouldn't be surprised if they used a QB on one of those picks. So I decided to go with this one. Not a player I like a lot, but I think the QB with the best chance of being picked by the Miami Dolphins is Quinn Ewers, the Texas QB. I think they're going to see him as a scheme fit. A lot of things he does, the things he does really well are the things Miami tries to maximize, like his quick release, playing on timing, consistent in he's more consistent in like the short, intermediate range, accuracy wise. Struggles with the deep ball. There's 2 areas that I really have a problem with Ewers that I think like with him struggling to translate to the next level in those areas is the reason I don't ever see him being better than like a backup. But if you do take a QB in the middle rounds, you're not really expecting him to be a starter. You're expecting to like get a solid backup. But he's got a snappy release. In his best games, you can see what there is. Like from like he's got a decent physical and athletic profile. Nothing to really write home about. But it's the quick release, good RPO, good off play action, very good in like the screen game, like selling things, getting the ball out on time, and all of like he could. I think he could be a quarterback that comes in like a random game in the middle of the year and be like, oh, he can run your offense, the McDaniel style offense. But like you have to keep everything clean from him, because when he is under pressure, he falls apart. Like, and to me, when quarterbacks struggle under pressure, it's one of the biggest telltale signs that they will not translate to the next level. And he really struggles under pressure. And the deep ball, he does not have a consistent deep ball. And that Texas team around him was so stacked. Like, in my opinion, they were the best team, like in the country the past 2 years. But the quarterback play was kind of the thing mostly holding them back. In most areas. But I do think Ewers in like that 4th to 5th round has the best chance of being picked by the Miami Dolphins. If I had to guess, this is just me, making my best guesses, and I think Ewers fits that profile, and I just think McDaniel would really like him. Do you think the Dolphins draft 2 corners if they trade Ramsey? Yeah, I think they would. It also depends like what happens with Ramsey, because I've seen like I don't think Ramsey's going to get you like a straight up top 100 pick. Last time he got traded, it was for a top 100 pick, but that was 2 years ago. He's aged up, the contract. I don't think they're going to get like a top 100. The way they get into the top 100 using Ramsey is like, I wouldn't be surprised if they give up like one of those picks and Ramsey to move up into like, the middle of the 3rd round or something like that. You kind of use Ramsey as a package to trade up. And then, I think they're going to still take corner early. I'll get to my list. I have 3 players right now at 13 that I'm deciding between my predictive mock of who to put at 13. And I think, and 2 of them are corners. I am kind of like, I just think they have I think the Dolphins will like them a lot. They fall under that category. I think they have a decent chance of being there as well, which also plays into the predicting game. You never know. Sometimes people fall you don't expect, and that can, mess things up. But he drafted Chop last year, and Chop was a beast, and now we are picking even earlier. Oh yeah, we can definitely. You can definitely. I think this pick at 13, there is a lot of options to not mess this up. There's only a few guys that I think he could pick that would mess it up, but I don't even know if a lot of those will end up being options. So I have pretty good confidence they'll be fine. Yeah, Greer. Yeah, Greer's necessarily the problem isn't the talent. Like, I think the problem with Greer is a few other things. It's not necessarily the talent added, because the Dolphins have been one of the more talented teams in the NFL. Like, I think free agency last year, the draft last year proved that he can evaluate and add talent. I think the problem is where I think there are certain positions he's ignored, which was a problem. And then he's put themselves in a tough spot with the contracts he handed out to certain people, not necessarily the talent part is where I would mostly blame Greer. I would blame Greer for like the contracts last year that he handed out to players that clearly, maybe weren't team first and give them a lot of money, and now he wants to move on from them. And then also maybe ignoring specific positions. That's kind of where I've been at. But yeah, Raphael, I have not watched. I haven't watched any of the 2026 class yet, so I don't really have an opinion. I do know the QB class will be better, and yeah, I'm just saying a later QB. I don't think the Dolphins are going to go QB early this year. I don't think they should. If it was up to me, I actually probably wouldn't take a quarterback this year until like round 7, if that was a decent one fell. But for the most part, I'd probably ignore QB because I don't like the class. And then next year you can go into the 2026 class, which I think will be better. For like, it'd be pretty hard for it not to be better. Then you can potentially take QB. Obviously, depending on how the past year plays out, where you take it, that would change. But yeah, QB. I think Quinn Ewers. Running back is a tough one, actually. So I was trying to decide. There was multiple different names here. I was like, which running back? If I had to guess a running back that would get drafted by Miami, who would it be? Because this is a position I could see them taking in the middle, but I could also just see them ignoring it altogether as well. So I went with 2 names here, and I tried to go for different types. And I went one for like the bigger body that you can kind of add to complement what you have. But then I also went with one name that just like feels like the McDaniel type, which is Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue from Texas, another Texas player actually. He's like the guy in this class that McDaniel would fall in love with. It's just Blue is a lot like Achane and, kind of like Wright as well. You kind of already have those top 2 backs. But I feel like I had to throw him in there just because I feel like McDaniel could never have enough of those guys. The really fast, good receivers. Like, he's just a big play waiting to happen. And I also put Raheem Sanders. This is like the only position I put 2 because I really couldn't decide. But yeah, Raheem Sanders, Arkansas running back. Kind of a linear athlete, not great change of directions, but he's a little bit bigger, has a massive frame at 6'2", 230. Has a little bit, some other problems with like high pad level, not the most creative. But I do think he has like some home run ability combined with some power. And I think you can potentially get him late in the draft too. Yeah. That's kind of like the running. Those are late round positions though. QB, running back, and even receiver. Like, honestly, all the skill positions on offense, I put more mid to late round guys because I don't expect them to go after those early. But I could see them attacking some of these guys later. Well, once we get to like D-line and, corner, I went with some more earlier options that I think could easily be there. Is there an edge that I would take at 13 that I feel is worth the 13th pick? For Miami, no, I wouldn't personally. I do think there's some edge rushers that if like it was more of a need that could be in the conversation for sure. But for Miami specifically, I just don't think I would even be considering that class just because I know I know other players that are likely to be there that I like more and they're more at positions of needs. But yeah, they could definitely draft edge on day 3. I don't think edge is ever off the table. Even though it's not your biggest need, edge is just a premium position that you should always be looking to potentially add. And the edge I did put actually has some alignment versatility. I am looking for like a bigger edge that can, play like a strong side, maybe even get down and be like a 4-eye at times. For receiver, lots of options. I've watched more receivers than any other position just because that's how it goes every year. The receivers are always pretty deep. And I was trying to go for a more of a mid to late round option here as well because I don't think they're going to go receiver early. I went with Isaac Tesla. I'm not 100% sure, but the Arkansas receiver, big body receiver. Like I watch him and I see a McVay type, and McVay runs, a similar system to Miami. They're both from the Shanahan tree, and I think the Dolphins should be trying to add McVay types. I actually think Tesla can also do kind of what you brought in Nick Westbrook-Akine to do, but Westbrook would be more reliable, and Tesla could be more of a developmental. He's even more athletic. But runs really well, great ball skills and body control, flashes the route running, but just needs to be more consistent, plays with physicality, can be used to block, which I think is huge. Let him dig out those blocks in the slot. You can even motion him in. The size, athleticism, he could be a guy that I could see Miami, looking at in the draft. What's up, Elwood? You want Sean Dolak? Yeah, I released a video on Sean Dolak and Justin Wally today, so check those out. Two big sleepers in the class. Dolak has been getting love for a while because he wasn't invited to the combine, so a lot of guys have been showing him love, the linebacker from Buffalo. But Justin Wally from Minnesota, a corner. I had not seen anyone, I didn't even see his name, and I had not seen anyone talking about him until a few days ago, and then I was like, oh, I'll watch him. Wally is better than a lot of the corners in this class. Like I thought Wally was like a late day 2 guy when I watched his film. And I'll talk about him a little bit later when we get to corners, but Justin Wally, good name. I found some good corners too, like some mid to late round options that maybe aren't being as discussed as much. So if they do want to go corner in those, middle to late rounds, there's some intriguing guys there. I actually like the corner class more than I thought initially because I found some more guys. Say Jalen Phillips plays 17 games. Do Dolphins pay him or let him test the market? I guess it depends on how well he plays. I'm imagining if he plays all 17 and plays well, he's going to get a big payday. I would love to bring Phillips back. I've talked about it. I love Phillips. He's one of my favorite players on the roster. I think when healthy, obviously big question mark because he's had 2 big injuries last 2 seasons. He was actually the Dolphins' best defensive player for like that stretch when he was healthy 2 years ago. So I love Phillips. I think he plays a great, very, very valuable position, but I find it tough to pay him like huge money, especially with his injury history. But yeah. Then to tight end. Tight end was tough. There's a lot of tight ends that I like as scheme fits, and I would have loved to go with like an earlier option that I thought the Dolphins would have a high chance of drafting. But there was a few names. I could have put Gunnar Helm. I could have put like Terrence Ferguson, Jackson Haas. I decided to go with a little bit more of a sleeper because I think tight end is a late round option. I think McDaniel will like this guy. I went with Jalen Conyers, the Texas Tech tight end. I think he has the athleticism and size they're looking for. They think they could potentially coach him up in those areas. He's very good with his yak. He's kind of like the poor man's Tyler Warren in this class because like he's even played wildcat quarterback like Tyler Warren did. This guy makes some tough catches, has really good speed, long wingspan. Just needs to put it all together. But he has juice. I believe he's like listed around like 6'3", 260-ish, so good size at tight end. I think Dolphins are going to be looking to add a wide tight end, but I just don't think they're going to be, unfortunately, not looking at it too early, even though I've been asking for a wide tight end in pretty much every draft class early for the past like 3-4 years, and it just hasn't happened. So that's why I'm guessing a later round option. That's my prediction there. So Quinn Ewers at quarterback, Blue or Sanders at running back, T-Slaw at receiver, and then Jalen Conyers at tight end. All mid to late round options because I think for those positions, the Dolphins, the more skilled positions on offense, I think they're going to be targeting those a little bit later in the draft. Ryder, what are your thoughts on Hunter Wohler at the safety out of Wisconsin? I think he's a sleeper at the position. I wouldn't Shocks jumps in the late. Now that you mentioned it, I was going to just keep going in order of my list, but I'll skip to the end because the safety I put that I think has the best chance of being a Miami Dolphin that I'm predicting is Hunter Wohler, the Wisconsin safety. I do agree. He probably goes in that 3rd. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 3rd round, also 4th round potentially. But Hunter Wohler, I think he fits the prototype at safety. He doesn't quite. I think they could be looking for more of a free safety than him, but I still feel like they'll like Wohler a lot. Athletic, smart, physical. I think he has some versatility. He's a strong tackler. I think the Dolphins would like him. He could also play as like a big slot at time too. he's just the guy that I predicted. I think there's a few names I could have gone with here that I was kind of deciding between like Jonas Sanker, Hunter Wohler, Lathan Ransom, sort of guys in that middle pack. I decided to go Wohler because I think they value that size and athleticism. Let's see a lot of Harrison Smith. I can see that, yeah. It's been a while since I've watched Harrison's college tape, but yeah, I can definitely see that. I agreed. I think 2 of the 3 first will be defense. Yeah, I would say at least 2 of the 3. I think the only way it wouldn't be is if, like, say you got to the second round and someone, like, in the second fell to you that you just didn't expect at, like, receiver or tight end, and they went receiver there. And then third round, I could see just being anything. I think first round will most likely be defense. Third round could be anything. Because once you get to 98, it's such a big gap, it's hard to predict what they could end up taking. Yeah, I really like Watts too. I didn't put Watts because one, like when you're doing the prediction game, it's more about like guessing who's going to be there. I think Watts could even be off the board by the time Miami picks. And 2, I don't know if they'll love him. I don't know if I love him, but I don't know if Miami will. Yeah, I'm a big Justin Wally fan. CB Frazier, third round. I think that's a little bit rich for Frazier. But I do think Frazier would be interesting a little bit later than that. But let me go back in order. Now we're to tackles. I'm going to do a tackle and an interior offensive lineman. For tackle, I decided to guess Charles Grant. I think there's a few names you could put it here that are like the ideal outside zone scheme fit at tackle. Like, you could have put Chase Lunt from UConn. You could have put Logan Brown from Kansas. You could have even put like maybe Caleb Rogers if you think he's a tackle, but I think he's a guard. But I decided to put Charles Grant from William & Mary. I think he's like the ideal Shanahan type scheme fit. Really good outside zone. Probably one of the best true reach blockers in the class. Super high upside with his athleticism and physical profile. He started in college at 240. Like he was new. He's like pretty newish to football, and like he was already out there just like absolutely dominating that competition. So those are your big question marks with him is like the competition he played, and he is newish to football, but that could also be looked at as a positive because you're like, oh, we can develop him and already get him better, and he's already good enough. But the lateral quickness is absolutely ridiculous. So I just decided to guess Charles Grant because I think the Dolphins would really like him. For guard, man, there's a million names on this list. I just picked Jackson Slater from Sacramento State. I think he also fits the profile. And I think I've guessed O-line is going to be more of a pick in like that late 3rd, early 4th round section. And I think that's where Jackson Slater is to go. Like, I do think they could still go O-line early, like in 1st or 2nd, but I think it's still more likely they go at the defensive side of the ball and at those 2 picks specifically. So I decided to go for more of like that. Someone you could take at 98, someone you could take at, 115-ish. So I put Jackson Slater because scheme fit, he's tested really well. He had a really good combine. Guard, I think he could play guard and both guard spots and center. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see them taking Emanwari. Emanwari is one of the sleepers I could see them taking at 13. I would just be very disappointed. That would be one of there's not many picks I would be very disappointed in at 13, but that would be one of them. Yeah, I love Donovan Jackson. I didn't guess Donovan Jackson because I don't think the Dolphins will draft him just because I think he'll be they're not going to I don't think they'll take him at 13 obviously, and then I don't think he makes it to 48. So I guess in a trade back, but I've talked about it. Trade backs just feel very unlikely. Not impossible, but very unlikely. Any thoughts about the team making scheme changes? I don't see too much of a scheme change happening. Well, I mean, there might be some slight different variations of stuff, but I don't see like a massive scheme change. Maybe defensively that could happen if Weaver wants to add more guys. Maybe he thought like he changed his defense last year. Because Weaver was tough to predict because he was coming from like he's had 2 different coordinators to work with at the Ravens that run 2 different schemes. So maybe he thought like, I can work in, a mix of this stuff, but this isn't my true scheme because I just, built the scheme around the players he had. So maybe he can get more maybe if he wants to go more man heavy, because the other Ravens style defenses were a little more man heavy. So I could see that happening if he drafts corners that are maybe a little more man heavy than expected, which would be interesting. Personally, I think Donovan Jackson's a great scheme fit. I think he has the athleticism for sure to play, especially guard in the Dolphins system. To be a guard, I think you just have to be a good athlete. Center and tackle, you have to be like elite athletes, but guard, a good athlete. And I think Donovan Jackson is definitely good enough to play guard in the Dolphins system. Shouldn't pay JP too injured, a level overrated. Too injured, I understand. Overrated, I don't think so. I actually think he's underrated league-wide. I don't think many people talk about Jalen Phillips like that. Let's go to defense now. Okay, we'll start at the interior. We already did safety, but we'll start interior D-line. Now, this was probably the toughest one to guess. This was to guess which defensive lineman they could take, because I could have guessed, because I went through the whole list. Like those other positions, I was going through late round options. For this, I could have gone a first round D tackle, a second round guy, a third round guy, a fourth round guy, because I think they could take D tackle in any round, honestly. The class is so deep, and it's, got some guys at the top that are really good. I decided to go with a guy I think they could take on day 2. Whether it's round 2 or 3, I don't know. It's a guy they've brought in for visits. It seems like a guy they would like, and probably a guy they'll like more than me, but I do like him as well, is Shamar Turner, Texas A&M. Super high upside athletically, like the explosiveness with versatility. Like, I think the Dolphins would love that. I think they want a bunch of different types of D tackle. I think they want a 1/nose. But then I also think they want a guy that can play in that 3 to 5 range, which Turner can for sure, and be able to work some stunts. Maybe even a guy that can play as a big edge. There's other guys that could potentially fit that. I think Turner, they brought him in on visits. That doesn't necessarily mean they like him, but it was just a tough bag. Like, I could have picked so many of these guys, but I guess if I'm going to put money on one, it's going to be Shamar Turner. I think he also has super high upside. Like, I think the Texas A&M scheme held him back a bit, like I've talked about with the Texas A&M guys. When they let him shoot upfield, man, when they let Turner unleash, dude, he was so explosive. Absolutely great disruptive qualities. And I think having disruptiveness at D tackle is like the most important. Sometimes it's not about always, putting up a bunch of tackles or sacks or all of that. It's about just being like constantly disruptive. Like, that's how you really can wreck a game. Sometimes, it helps your other guys get sacks and make plays. But I think Turner can be a really and he's mean too. He's got, I think a downside to his game is there's some inconsistencies, and he has committed some dumb penalties on the field, but I don't know. I think the Dolphins will end up liking him a lot. I think they like him even more than me, and I think D tackle is one of those positions that they're going to take relatively early. Could be first round, could be second, could be third. But yeah. JP always seemed to have slow starts this season, but picked it up. Yeah, he always got better. But I just think, in that 2023 season, Phillips was your best player in defense. Like, not your best player overall, because I think the offense that season had players better like Tyreek and stuff. But I think Phillips is your best player on defense before he got injured, man. Like, he was so dominant, man. I'm a big Phillips fan. When he is playing, obviously, maybe he doesn't come back the same player because he's coming off 2 major injuries, which would suck. But the last time he was playing like real football, he was playing truly elite off the edge. I love Chop, but I don't think he's quite there yet. I do think he could potentially get to that level, but what Chop was playing at the end of last season compared to what Phillips was playing at the end of his last season, I'm not counting last year because he only played 2 games and he got injured right away because, the injury. Or he only played, he only played like a handful of snaps. But yes, I do believe Chubb will leave. But I think when Phillips was playing last, like, he was dominant. And Phillips is a much better run defender than Chop is right now. Both very good pass rushers, though. But hopefully he can stay healthy, man. Hopefully. That's the question. Then I put an edge on here. Edge was another position that, like, I went sort of more in that middle to late round. I decided to go with Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. I really didn't know what to do with this one. I didn't have a great feel for guys they would love, but I decided to go. I was kind of picking between those kind of bigger edges that I think you can give you even some reps on the interior in certain situations, which Ivy has experience playing as like a 4-eye guy, bigger frame, being able to win at the point of attack. I even heard that apparently, I can't remember where I heard this, but I had it read in my notes, but apparently he interviewed well with the Dolphins. Someone said that. My bad, whoever said that. But versatility, mid-round guy. I think he's got enough athleticism for his size, versatility, disruptiveness, good hand usage. I think sometimes he plays too high and can get knocked off balance, but he closes his ground pretty fast. I think a big edge is interesting for that sort of spot. Like Savion Jones is another name that could potentially be there, but decided to guess Jared Ivey. Love Weston Caldwell later on. Yeah, those are two names I like a lot. The D tackle, man. You could talk me into Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant at 13. Even Derek Harmon wouldn't be that bad. And then at 48, like you could talk me into Tyleik Williams, Alfred Collins, Walter Nolan. There's some off-field stuff, but at 48, it's great value as a player. Then there's some other guys, maybe there are guys who could, like 48 maybe is a little rich, but maybe 98 they're not there. That's when you get to guys like Omar Norman Lott, TJ Sanders, Darius Alexander, Shamar Turner. Then some later guys like Ty Robinson, Aeneas Peebles, Jordan Phillips, Vernon Broughton, CJ West, Jamari Caldwell, JJ Pegues, Keontae Hamilton, a late round guy. There's a lot of guys to like in this class. Ty Robinson, I think they'll like a lot too. That's a name I was kind of potentially thinking about. Yeah, you mentioned Ty Robinson. Yeah, I think they could like Ty Robinson. He has some of those traits that I think they look for, especially to work twist and stunts game. If you see a guy that has like really good athleticism and quickness, like to cross face of an offensive lineman on a twist and stunt, or the athleticism to like bend around and like time it up and stuff, those are the D linemen you're looking for, and Robinson definitely has those types of ability. Because the Dolphins didn't blitz a ton last season, but they ran a ton of twist and stunts. And Sealer is like at his best in that game. Like he's a dominant player in that area. Yeah. If they say at 13, do you think Barron Johnson or bust? Grant scares me at 13. Well, RMVM. Those are actually, I'm doing a predictive mock next week. It will be like who I'm genuinely going to predict at each pick. And those are the three names I'm between, like guessing through. And I think all three would be great. I'm not too worried about the snap count stuff. I do agree that I do, for me, I would take Johnson and Barron before Grant. Because I do think I can get D linemen that are very good later in the draft, just because I think the D line class is stacked. But I wouldn't be super concerned. I think Grant is just an absolute freak athlete that can absolutely disrupt a game. But you're probably going to have to take D linemen in this class just due to what you're looking at kind of each sort of, almost in every day, you might have to take a D lineman. So if you don't take one day one, you're probably going to have to take two on day 3 or something. Day 2, you probably take a D lineman, one of those picks. Yeah, and then day 3, rounds 4 to 5, you might end up taking 2 in that area, and then hopefully they can fill out that rotation. But I'm not super concerned with it. That's just, the nature of certain spots. They don't always play every single snap, and that's fine. But I like all three of those guys, and those are, I think, the 3 most likely options right now in my mind, just based on actually being there, because I think they have a chance of actually being there. And Dolphins actually liking them as scheme fits. Yes, I think they will like all 3 a lot. And I've never heard like any bad character things with any of those guys. I've actually heard only good things mostly. 2 of them are Michigan, and we know, Ross loves Michigan. That could also play a factor, even though we haven't really drafted too many Michigan guys. But I also like there's some of the Michigan. I know some of like the people that do some stuff from Michigan is kind of like could have connections with Weavers that could help from the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Now where are we at? Linebacker, yeah. Another position I don't even know if they'll target. I don't even know if they'll take a linebacker in this class. I think it would be one of the late picks. So I put a late round linebacker that I like is Teddy Buchanan, Cal. And surprisingly, the Dolphins have actually taken some Cal players in recent times. They took last year they took Patrick McMorris late, and what year? There was another year they took. Why am I blanking on his name? He's still on the Dolphins team, but he missed last year with an injury. But he's also from Cal, and that like we haven't had that many picks in the past handful of years. And you know, 2 of them end up being on Cal players, so it seems like, you know, they study Cal. It's an edge. I'm gonna find it right now. Cameron Good. That's, of course, yeah. Cameron Good is another, you know, player. Some definite, and there are some late round players at Cal that are. There's just some players at Cal that I think they like. Teddy Buchanan, Noel Williams, Craig Woodson. I don't know. It just seems like you know, they like some late round Cal options. Yeah, good. You guys both said it. Thank you. But yeah, so I just decided to throw a late round Cal player, and I think Buchanan's interesting. I think he'd also play special teams. I don't know if they're going to go out to linebacker, because linebacker right now it's one of the positions you would love an upgrade at linebacker too, but you don't really need bodies there. You don't really need depth. Like, you added a lot of guys in that rotation that can be depth guys. And then you also still have guys like Channing Tindall on the roster who probably won't even make the team, but with all the guys they added. But it is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, they also did sign Ashton Davis in free agency. Another Cal guy. But yeah, didn't spend too much time thinking about linebacker because I don't think it's going to happen. But if they were, I'm just going to guess Teddy Buchanan. Now, corner. This was another one. I decided to go with an early round guy because I haven't gone with any real first round options yet as my guesses. So I went down between 2 first round options of who I thought could be, you know, so it came down to Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron. And I was like, okay, who do I think the Dolphins will like more, and who do I think has a better chance of being there? And surprisingly, I actually think Will Johnson has a better chance of being there at 13 than Jahdae Barron. From what I've heard, you know, just, you know, from reading some stuff, and and also just from what I, you know, just my experience from being around the draft scene, is that typically when corners don't run 40s or don't test and they have some injury question marks, they do fall. And I think the Dolphins would be comfortable taking Will Johnson at 13. So I decided to guess Will Johnson is like the most likely corner they could take. Jahdae Barron was right there with him. I'm actually still deciding like who I would take. Like, if it was up to me, I'm actually very split on Will Johnson versus Jahdae Barron right now, because there's some real I actually think Jahdae Barron's a safer pick, while Will Johnson maybe gives you a little more upside, but is it enough to be a little more risky? Because Johnson has more of an injury history. I do think the injury history stuff is a little bit overrated, though, because if you look it up on Google, Will Johnson injury history, it actually it does like an AI overview. So let me look this up actually, because it tells you like his injury history, but there's another person named Will Johnson, and I looked it up, and he like also played. The guy played at what's it called? He like plays soccer, and it like also took his injuries. So Johnson's injuries didn't really happen till 2024. Last year he had the turf toe, he had a hamstring and a shoulder thing. So last year he struggled with injuries, but before that they were trying to say that he had like a concussion, an ankle sprain, a broken tibia, which was actually not reported to him. It was actually a different Will Johnson that played soccer, which is interesting. So I do think the injury stuff is a little bit overblown, but it is still something to mention. And then there's also some inconsistencies at time. Like, you're worried about, like, is he fast enough? I think he's fast enough. I think he'll be fine. I think the reason I'm more leaning towards Barron is because I think some people see Will Johnson as like an elite prospect, like an elite or a blue chip, or, you know, whatever term people use, because there's a lot of terms people use to like describe like top tier prospects. I think Will Johnson is a very good one. I don't think he's quite to that level. I think they're both very good. I think Johnson is just, to me, to be like an elite level corner, that means like, oh, I could leave you isolated one-on-one on your side of the field all game long, let you play man. I don't think that's Johnson's game necessarily. I think he could do it and do it to a good level, but not quite an elite level. I think he's very good in like off-man zone coverage. Like, and this is where this would be a reason I want to take him. Here's one of the clip I found from Twitter. He is a big playmaker. He didn't get targeted a lot at Michigan, but he takes chances and can like convert turnovers a lot. And that did kind of suffer last year for Miami. I think he'd be more of a ball hawk turnover guy. Like, he has a lot of pick sixes like this. When he plays flat foot reads, he is constantly anticipating. Like, when he sees the quarterback here, like, he's reading through the receiver to the quarterback. Once he sees that quarterback take that one step drop and this receiver snap his eyes around, He doesn't take any steps. He is anticipating this the whole way, and then he has the quickness to close interception. And that is all over his film. So that would be a reason I would like, is making me want to take him. But then I think Barron is like, I think he can be good on the outside. I think he could potentially be elite as a nickel, but also still a good outside, a damn good outside corner. And he like moves around. He offers you that versatility. Like I could see him playing safety, see him playing down in the box. The Dolphins do a lot of cover rotation where they have their, like last year, you would be surprised how many times Kohu rotated to safety on certain, like especially like in obvious passing situations. And Barron could also do that for you. It would offer, like, for how much the Dolphins like to do a lot of pre to post snap rotation and coverage, Barron would help so much in that facet of the game. So I think that would be a reason Weaver could love him. And also, I just think Barron right now, it seems like he might even go before 13, which is kind of crazy. My son's attending. He started at Fresno State. I'll check him out if I get a chance. They said the same thing with PS2 coming in. Yeah. Well, I've seen some people try to compare him to Patrick Surtain. Personally, I think Patrick Surtain is like a tier above him as a prospect. And I love Patrick Surtain the second. Like he was an elite corner in my opinion. I think the thing with Will Johnson and also Barron is like they're not quite to that level of prospect for me. Is kind of like the difference. Good UDFA running back. There's some decent options. It's tough to predict who'll be UDFA. Maybe like a Lan Larison, UC Davis. Penny Boone is a guy. He's from UCF. He's a guy that actually I think the Dolphins have met with as well. Lan Larison, Marcus Yarns, maybe if he goes UDFA. Trying to think who could else be a potential UDFA. Maybe Kyle Manungai, Rutgers. Could it be a potential UDFA? I don't know if any of those will be UDFAs, but if they're not, they'll be late round picks. That's why it's tough for me to decide right now between Will Johnson and Barron. And then after that, I think it's Grant. I'm gonna make my list, Mike. I'll have it on stream, like when we're watching live. I'll have my like list of like, here's who I would take, and I'll have it numbered. I'll probably make like at least a top 10. Just, be safe. And then some of those players will probably be guys who are gone. I'll leave off the obvious players. Like, I'm not going to put Travis Hunter on there. Like, he's not going to be there. Like, Travis Hunter's obviously going to be gone. But yeah, those were all my predictions. Quinn Ewers. I think the Dolphins will like him. Jaden Blue. Isaac T-Slaw. Jalen Conyers. Charles Grant. Jackson Slater. Shamar Turner. Jared Ivey. Teddy Buchanan. Will Johnson. And Hunter Wooler. If I had to pick like one player from each position that I think has a decent chance of being picked by Miami, just because I think they'll like him. Now, obviously, they're not going to draft all those people. They might not even draft any of them. But because I was also trying to go like, round by round too. Rutgers back too. Yeah, I like Kyle Manungai. He's kind of being underrated in this class because his film's better from 2023. But he's a pretty good player. I also believe he's like, I think he like hasn't fumbled in so long, or maybe he's even never fumbled, which is awesome. I love Barron and the versatility, but Will Johnson screams more CB1. Yeah, I think especially if you look at it from like if you only consider like an outside corner CB1, it's just I'm thinking of it like this. Like I think people undervalue one. I do think Barron can be an outside CB1. I think Johnson has more like potential upside to be like a potential elite outside CB1. I don't think he'll be that. I think he'll be a very good one. But I think nickel is super underrated, and I think he can play both spots, which is very helpful. If you look at teams like some of the top teams actually, but like look at the Eagles. They added Cooper DeJean, and he helped transform that defense playing nickel for them. Same thing when the Lions drafted Brian Branch, and he's been their nickel, and he's been like one of their best defensive players for sure. Then you have guys like Trent McDuffie who don't play as that nickel, but are a smaller guy that play outside, and he helped transform that defense. So I do think Barron can still be that type of guy, whether it's on the outside or the inside. I think, and I think Barron kind of compares to a combination of all three of those guys I just mentioned, which is pretty high praise. Yeah. I would love Damian Martinez on day 3. He's a name I considered as well. I just think Damon Martinez is going to go round 3. That was the reason I didn't predict him. But if he's there day 3, he would be one of the running backs I target. Here's some other Will Johnson film. This is from Jordan Reed on Twitter. Shout out Jordan Reed. Just his anticipation skills, ability to mirror and match on the outside. It's very impressive. He has, he's able to read and react super well. When he's off like this, look at he stays square and patient. Look at the feet too. Ball skills are there. Very good, cutting things off. Like I'm saying, anticipation is so huge at the corner position. Being able to recognize routes and run them for the receivers at times. And he's got good transitions too. You can see it right here, like how quickly and smoothly he transitions, which to me is much more important than speed. Look at that. That closing burst. It's the transition out of the pedal to close and burst. To me, that's better than seeing him run in a straight line. And there actually is plenty of examples of Barron running Johnson running in a straight line, because he's had a lot of pick sixes where he jumped routes and no one was near him. Yeah. Well, Caleb Johnson's probably going to go pretty early, so I don't think he'll be a guy on the table for Miami, just because of how I think he'll go round 2 somewhere. But yeah, those were the guys I wanted to talk about. So, any questions? We're almost there. I'm very excited. I'll have a bunch of things ready for the draft from my draft stack of guys they should pick, my favorite players, and I'll have some clips we can pull up, guys that are drafted, just talk ball. Hopefully we can see how the draft is unfolding, and then kind of predict each pick. Tune is another name that is a McDaniel pick for sure. A few different running backs that are kind of McDaniel guys, and Tune's one of them. What do you think of Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins? I like both of them. I actually probably even like Jalen Noel more than Jaden Higgins, but I actually think both could play in Miami. I think those are the 2 types of receivers you look for the Dolphins. Is that sort of a little bit undersized but quick and explosive, still can be a vertical threat that can play inside outside, which I think is Jalen Noel. Good route runner. I actually think he could be a guy, if you traded Tyreek, he could be a guy you try to bring in to, he wouldn't play the Tyreek role, but he would kind of play the Waddle role, and Waddle would play the Tyreek role. And then Higgins would be like that guy you try to bring in, that big size of the room. I think he can do some of the stuff you would want. He can even play a big slot/X. Good route runner, good contested catcher. I think they're both day 2 receivers in this class. I think I have them. Yeah, I have them rated back to back. I have them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them as the 7th and 8th receiver in the class. So pretty good. Big fan. But yeah, trying to figure out how to make this draft board look good, but Google Sheets is not my friend. Yeah, thank you guys for watching.